You got those minutes you saw, right?
No,
Well, I sent them to everybody, and I emailed you back.
sorry.
No, it's good. Okay. All right, we should be live, and here we go.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Sunshine Law, annual notice having been published on or about April 11th, 2026 in two local newspapers with a copy on file with the board secretary and a copy to be posted to the TCCS website. This meeting is being called to order at 7:03. Can I have a motion?
Oh.
Right. Second?
All right, mission statement.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, so we always start our meeting with the mission statement. It is the mission of TCCS to provide a nurturing environment in which students realize their full potential, intellectual potential, and become a self-directed learner who make both pragmatic and creative use of basic skills and who understand and appreciate the cultural diversity of our society. The faculty, staff, parents, extended family, and other members of the Child Support Network are committed to creating and operating a student-centered learning community which promotes and supports a child's natural curiosity and enthusiasm for acquiring knowledge. This learning community will follow a living curriculum, an experiential interdisciplinary study that encompasses literacy, critical thinking, and responsible social interaction while empowering each child to demonstrate his or her unique interests and abilities. Okay, I already called to order. So the first thing on our agenda is the approval of minutes from 3/9.
And actually, we're going to do the last meeting too. So that was 2/9/26. Closed session. 2/9/26.
All in favor?
Oh, well, yeah. So there's actually 4 total sets. There's 2/9 closed session, 3/9, and 3/9 closed session. We're good?
Good.
Okay.
Good. All in favor?
Oh, you got a first, second.
Oh my gosh. Let me just start the whole meeting over. Breathe. Can I have a motion for approval of minutes? Okay. Carter, motion second. Lavino seconds. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Minutes accepted. Thank you, Ralph.
No problem. All right. So I'll take it away here with the director's report. I do have a presentation, but we'll get through these things first, and then I'll get into the budget. First and foremost, we've got our enrollment update. Currently, for the first time this year, we do have a couple vacancies. We have a spot that is currently being offered for first grade, a spot for 5th grade, and a spot for 7th grade. One is a set of siblings who are moving, and another individual was also moving. So we've got those 3 spots were offered up actually just this morning. Stephanie sent the notifications in lotteries. So they have 48 hours to respond and confirm if they want to take the spots. If not, it'll go to the next one on the waiting list. We do have significant waiting lists, as you know, for all those grades, so we shouldn't experience any issues with filling the spots. And in the upper grades, actually, there's quite a few siblings who are also up for the spots, so that should definitely help with filling them. Okay. Facility update. I've got some really good news. As you may have read in the backpack notices, or your kids may have also told you, the gym is back open. We were able to open it back up on Monday. The floor has been totally refinished and repaired with new graphics and everything. It looks better than it did to begin with. So I'm very, very pleased about that. It was definitely ahead of schedule by about 2 weeks, so we're pleased. The walls are still going to be repaired in the corner of the room above the glass doors. I believe they're coming on Thursday to begin demo. That should take like 2 days, and then they'll have a better idea of what the repair is going to look like to make sure that there's no other, real damage behind the drywall. But regardless, that really shouldn't have too much of an impact on our use of the space. In talking to Mark, we may have to use just half of the gym during some of that time, but we're not going to have to close it totally. I've also told some of our rentals that we do have some opportunity now that the floor is refinished, so that's all set. Overall, the job cost as it stands right now, unless there's additional fees that kind of come along with the wall, depending on what they find there. Right now, the job itself costs $68,000, but due to our insurance coverage, we only have to put $5,000 out of pocket. The rest is being covered by the insurance company, so that's really, really good news. we're really thankful that the process was pretty seamless, particularly since it's a really new space. So to be able to get it back to the way it was before, after the accident with the flood, we're very lucky and very pleased that it's gone so well. Any questions about that? All right. The only other facility thing is, and we'll talk about it a little bit later for the contract, but that we are moving ahead with the next phase of the HVAC project, which we've been talking about, for 2 years or so, it seems. So everything is in order with that. The contract was sent, and we were able to hopefully get on their schedule for the Monday after we're done with school, so that there's no interruption to these spaces here, to get the project going, to make sure that there's no overlap when it comes to the following school year. So we'll have more information on that once the preliminary meetings are done. They've already sent us some requisitions and information about the aspects of the project that are more physical. Those have actually been sent to our architect to review, to make sure that everything's in line with what we wanted to do, and that's moving along nicely. All right. Any other facility questions? Perfect. All right. The only other thing that I have to talk about, and I talked about at the last meeting, is NJSLA. Families were notified before spring break of the dates, so we had a responsibility to let them know when that would take place. So they were sent the schedule with the daily testing times and all that. 3rd through 8th grade is going to be testing the week of May 4th, all of them, and that's for ELA and math testing. Just like we did in the fall with our field test, students are going to have to bring their own headphones and obviously their school-issued computers, which will hopefully make things a little bit easier in terms of material distribution for the test. On May 11th and 12th, our 5th and 8th graders are going to be taking the science assessment, and then any makeups that have to take place, which I'm assuming will be quite a few because we're testing everybody in 1 week. We have until May 29th to do those, so those will just be scheduled as needed. And we'll work around obviously the Frost Valley trip, which is the second half of the week of May 11th. For any of those kids who aren't able to do all the testing in advance. But otherwise, everything is pretty much set with that. We're going to be doing training for any staff who are going to be doing test administration over the course of the next 2 weeks. Talked about it at our staff meeting earlier last Thursday. And that's all going to be the same as it was for our fall field test, which again went pretty well. So I'm hopeful that we won't have any issues. And that's it for NJSLA. And I'm going to pass it over to Sonia to talk about some of our upcoming events.
All right, hello everyone. I hope everyone had a great spring break. I want to thank Miss Abby for entering students into the Bergen County Youth Art exhibit. We did have at least 8 of our students who were chosen. Their artwork was chosen, and they were selected for YAM, which is a Youth Art Month Bergen County Art Show. So that was great. I had posted it on the Instagram. So to celebrate those students and thank Miss Abby and the students for their hard work and their art projects. They were amazing. April 23rd, we have our science fair at 6 p.m. So hopefully you can make it. Like Mr. Gallo said, we have the Frost Valley trip is in May. So the forms are due April 24th. If anyone needs an extension, just please let me know. The gala is May 1st. So we want to make sure people get their tickets. And I want a quick update from TCSCO. The 50/50 raffle right now, we are currently at 2,420, which is great. Remember, you get 50/50 if your ticket is chosen. First is the top winners are $605. Second is $363, and then the last is $242. We're saying it under announcements. On Mondays, we give the leaderboard updates on which classes like selling the most raffle tickets. And the student council made a video, which was really nice. So we added it also on Instagram. So we're really trying to raise the funds. So please spread the word. And that's it, really, for events, surprisingly.
It's also important to know,
you talked about.
as far as the gala goes too, I know that TCSCO put together a notification to the community that they did drop the price for everybody. So it's going to be a standard $85 for everyone, regardless of whether or not you ordered early. So hopefully that'll encourage more people to go as well. And tickets are still available online. Or anything else on that?
If you purchase a ticket for $125 already, you get that money back in raffle tickets.
Perfect. Okay. Great. All right. So if there's no questions about any of the other things we've already talked about, I will jump right into the budget if that's okay with everybody. All right. Let me just go to slideshow. Everyone can see it behind me? Perfect. All right. So it's that time of year where we do present the following year's operating budget. We have all the figures that we received from the state. It's been quite a lengthy process over the last couple of weeks, months, to really, look at how it's going to impact our decisions for the coming year. And there's been a lot of work that we put into making sure that everything, falls within the budget that we have. So I am pleased to share, unlike last year, that revenue is up for the 26-27 school year, which if you're paying attention to the news, even from the state level, there are a lot of districts who are facing cuts for the coming year, and that's actually 2/3 of the schools and the districts in the state actually received increases. But even those who received increases, we're seeing significant cuts because there are a lot of expenses that are going up when it comes to benefits and just fixed expenses. And as everybody knows, just in general, prices are up for a lot of things. So the fact that revenue is up, that definitely helps us. We are actually going to be receiving, as it stands right now, and again, we get the official numbers later on in the school year, but to do our budgeting, we're seeing a little over 584,000 more than we did last year, which is definitely good. We can attribute that mainly to a couple factors, but obviously the enrollment increase helps, even though last year we lost something like 200,000 and we were still increasing kids. So it's helpful. One of the big differences that we've seen is that the funding formula has been updated again and approved by the governor. And in this case, it actually works in our favor, where last year it actually hurt us. We are continuing to get federal aid funding. There's been a lot of talk over the last 2 years about what's going to happen at the federal level with the changes being made to the federal Department of Ed. But we are also, we've been reassured that we will be receiving federal aid for this year. It's mainly flat. It's not a huge increase or anything like that, but it certainly helps. And you'll see how much we're getting for that on the next slide. But yeah, as I said, overall, you're seeing it in the news, from neighboring districts that there are a lot of significant cuts. So the fact that we are able to, move ahead here with, not only needing to do budget cuts, but also, making sure that the programs that we have are, sufficient and expanding as necessary. That's really important, especially when we talk about some of the things that are related to our mission. As you know, last year we had to cut a lot when it came to field trips and things like that. We were able to put a lot of that back in the budget for this year, which I'll talk about in a couple slides. So that's good news. But again, as we say every year, that these are estimated numbers that we get from the state based on what the governor has proposed in her budget. The official numbers will be approved later in the year when we approve the revised budget, which, in any given year, it could go up, it could go down. This past year, it remained basically the same. So that's helpful. All right. So overall, our general fund, when it comes to our revenue, we're looking at $8,521,182. That does include anticipated revenue of around $130,000 from interest and rentals, which is something that we obviously also rely on as part of our operation. The federal funds that we spoke about before, we're estimating that at about $135,000, which again is a conservative estimate based on historical data and the fact that it's remaining relatively flat. So overall, our operating budget for this year is going to be $8.6 million and change, which is it's hefty, it's good, and I'm very pleased to see that we are going up as opposed to down last year, because that was a very difficult presentation to make, and we had to make some difficult decisions. When talking about our expenses, I just to give everybody an understanding of how we budget, and again, this is the format that is given to us by the state. There is word that next year there might be a different budget format that we have to actually follow based on some legislation. But as it stands right now, there's a very specific charter school budget format that we have to follow, which is what we're presenting. But our expenses in that regard is broken down into 4 categories. That's instructional, administrative, support, and capital outlay. And it's important to also note, every year this is the case, and it's always in this range, but 85% of the budget is already spent before we get any money, right? Because these expenses are already set. It's non-negotiable because it's all based on salaries, benefit, and our rent. Due to contractual obligations and the fact that we have a lease that we have to follow, these funds are already taken out of the budget. So everything else that we work with is basically what's left over. So for this year, those three categories make up $7.25 million. And again, it's really non-negotiable because of contractual obligations and the lease. All right. But this year, for years, we've obviously been doing this, but if you recall, one of our district goals this year really pertained to fiscal sustainability, fiscal responsibility, especially with the issues that we experienced last year with the budget cuts. We've taken things to the next level when it comes to preparing for the budget, where before there was, I don't want to say a lot of estimating, but a lot of what we budgeted was really based on previous years and what some of the regular sort of fixed expenses were. Because things have changed when it comes to what things cost, what kind of programs we operate. We've taken things to the next level, and we've really tried to make sure we've gotten quotes for just about everything that we know we're going to spend for next year. So there was a lengthy process that we undertook for that. So there was a separate spreadsheet that was shared with the finance committee that really outlined all the individual expenses on all the lines, with links to copies of the contracts and the quotes and all that stuff. So we know that it's legit. And the hope is that we don't really experience too much in relation to surprises or things that we weren't anticipating. Also this year, something that was new is that Sonia and Tom met with different teacher groups, other stakeholders, support staff, and things like that to sit down and just have meetings about what their needs are for the current year. Rather than just give everybody the same amount, which we had done for a number of years, we really wanted to have an idea of what sort of needs we had, either whether it pertains to classroom reconfiguration or the expansion or things like that, to make sure that we're not hit with any surprises, whether it be over the summer or in the fall, so that we can get those orders together sooner rather than later. So for that reason, different grade levels may have different budgets for the coming year based on their individual needs. So those were really great meetings, and I'm glad that they took the time to do that, because it's real data that we're working with rather than just estimates. All right. So looking at these four individual categories, you see that 3.6 million is being spent on instructional expenses. Our administrative expenses are 2.3, support services are 2.2, and then capital outlay, we're looking at 165,000 and change for the total, which is 8,521,173. As you see, the greatest expense, which really needs to be the case, and as a school, we want to make sure that is the case, is our instructional expenses. So we want to make sure that the money is going to the students as much as we possibly can. And for that reason, we look at that. And to go a step further, the requirements that we have from the state is that at least 60% of the expenses do go towards instructional expenses. So one of the things that is a little misleading about the breakdown initially is that all of the benefits for all staff members, or at least all employees on payroll, go under the administrative line. So it does make it sometimes look like we might be a little bit administratively heavy, but when you break it out and actually spread out those benefits to each of the individual groups, you see that 64% is going towards instruction, 23% goes towards support, and only 13% of the real expenditures are relating to administrative needs. So this just ensures that we're meeting those requirements, and every year the spreadsheet that we have to submit has a little bit of a breakdown at the bottom that shows that as well. All right. So looking at the four different categories, I have different pie charts that really show where the money is going towards for each of those. So for instructional expenses, those have to do with the salaries that we pay to our teachers and our paraprofessionals, any home instruction or extended school year, supplies, textbooks, and other miscellaneous expenses that really impact students directly. So again, this is why we want our largest expenses to fall under this category, but it really has to do with what is going towards those who work with the kids in on a day-to-day basis. So of that, almost $3 million does go towards teacher salaries. 433,000 goes towards paraprofessional category salaries. Textbooks make up, I think, 3%, 3.4% of our overall instructional expenses. And when we talk about textbooks, it's not just your traditional sort of hardcover textbooks that we are accustomed to, but it's really our online subscriptions and things like that as well, that we use for the kids. Other miscellaneous expenses that we use for consulting and instructional purposes, that also falls under here. And the way that we've got it sort of outlined is that every expense, we've got it listed from the highest priority or the highest expense down to the lowest. So again, our teacher salaries make up the most of that because obviously, we want to make sure that we're retaining a full staff and that we're meeting all of our contractual obligations. Okay, any questions about instruction? Perfect. All right, just a couple of things I wanted to point out from our instructional expenses. A couple notable things for this year is for line 43, where the salaries obviously have gone up overall due to the contract that we have with the teachers and the paraprofessionals. We've also taken any vacancies and prospective new staff into consideration to meet any scheduling or programmatic needs. So when it comes to special education, we know how many teachers we need, and we're able to make sure that we're covering all those needs. And I'm very happy to share that on line 49, when we talk about field trips, we've increased that significantly over last year. So that's 35,000, but you add on the 42,000 that we've actually got strictly for transportation relating to field trips. We take that number and we divide it by 9. So every grade level gets a specific budget. So this year it's going to be, for the coming year, it's going to be 8,500 as opposed to 6,500, which they had this past year. If you recall, a couple grade levels, obviously not only did they meet that, but we had to actually seek support from outside organizations. Friends of TCCS had supported some of those other expenses that were above and beyond what we were able to budget this past year. So I'm hopeful that this will definitely cover everything that we need and provide more opportunities for our kids to get out of the building and have those experiential learning opportunities. All right. So the next category is administrative expenses. When we talk about administrative expenses, it's really not just your administrators, but it really is everything that covers general school administration, our business services, and any sort of professional development that's relating to improvement of instruction. So a lot of these eventually do make their way towards the students, just in the fact that some of that PD impacts their day-to-day. But it covers our admin and secretary salaries, all of the employee benefits, as we spoke about before, which includes our healthcare, pension, and payroll taxes, any legal costs that we may have, any other consultants or our auditor, any accounting and payroll and other business software that we need to pay for, communications, which covers our internet, our phone, any sort of advertising, things like that we have to do to make sure that we're compliant. Any office supplies, and then other miscellaneous and board expenses and training and things that go along with that. All right. So the way that these are broken down, obviously the largest expense is our benefits for all of our employees, which is 1.6 million, which is about 300,000 more than it was last year overall. Again, due to the rising costs that every district is feeling. Our administrator salaries are a little bit under 500,000. Our secretarial salaries are around 85,000. And then going down the list, we've got other purchase services at 51, technical services and consultants, legal fees and things like that. They're all sort of combined into these other categories. The communications, as we talked about, is not only our internet, but our phone service and anything that has to do with outreach and advertising. And then finally, office supplies based on our, sort of regular use, whether it be office paper, copy paper, toner, other supplies like that. That's about 6,000 for the whole year. So in total, our administrative expenses are 2,378,215, and that's the breakdown. So looking at Some notable expenses, things that have obviously either gone up or that we've maintained, for good reasons. Again, our benefits is now up to 1.6 million. And that's related, obviously, because it's based on salaries and the number of employees and all that. But based on the contractual obligations that we have and the anticipated waivers, we're looking at a little over 300,000 more than we saw last year, which I believe is around 25% of an increase, which again is the state average, and it's to be expected. So thankfully, had we not had an increase in our revenue and we were dealing with these, you could see why it's sort of a perfect storm that a lot of districts are dealing with. Unfortunately, that's resulting in a lot of cuts and budget shortfalls that you're seeing in a lot of places, which again, thankfully for this year, we don't have to really worry about. So our other purchase services line, 56, we are maintaining a lot of our regular sort of student information softwares that the office uses and that we use in our day-to-day operations. So that's, Frontline, which we use not only for absence management, but for all of our IEP management, Real-Time, which is our student information system and communication system for our parents. And then obviously our CDK accounting software is something that is a longstanding expense that we have to make sure that we're able to allocate things correctly in the budget and make sure that everything is documented and accessible. All right. Any questions on administrative expenses? All right. Next, we've got support services, and these are all the costs that are associated with activities that have to do with assisting instructional staff. So this is what we use to help provide learning experiences. And it does relate to other operations of the school, but mainly it's a lot of what ends up trickling down into the classrooms and eventually has impact on students. So that's our child study team, lunch services, our nurse and custodial salaries. All of those employees actually fall under support as opposed to instruction. All of our vendors that we work with for child study team, whether it be consultants or people who are on a part-time basis, who aren't working as payrolled employees, they would fall under support. Any other services relating to the building, so for security and for building maintenance, that all falls under support. Our rent, which is in line with the lease agreement, the insurance, which again we're very happy that we have, and obviously we need to have. But other building supplies, transportation, energy, and miscellaneous fees, that all falls under support, which has to do with the day-to-day operations of the school. So there's a lot that's broken down. I'm not going to get into the actual percentages, but you can see obviously salaries are the biggest chunk when we're looking at our support expenses. A close second is our rent, which is fixed at $850,000 a year. And you see that's been the case since we refinanced and did the gym project and the performing arts, the visual and performing arts suite that we are working in now. The other expenses just have to do with building and support services. Again, our insurance is somewhat expensive, but it pays for itself in many regards. But it's $133,000. Energy expenses are up a little bit. We'll talk about that on the next slide, but that's based on current use and just rates that are going up. Any support consultants are a little bit underneath that at $68,000. Transportation, which covers all of our field trips, but also all of our other supplemental transportation for sports or other activities, if the chorus goes somewhere or whatnot, that's covered under our transportation line. And then supplies is a little bit less than that at $47,500. And then miscellaneous, which covers anything that sort of doesn't fall into any of those specific categories, is only $3,500. So I just wanted to point out that line 68, which is $187,008, and then anytime you see these really specific numbers, it's a good sign that it's a very firm quote, and it's something that is not just an estimate. But it includes $45,000 for general repairs, which we have seen obviously go up as the school ages. But that covers any of our plumbing repairs, electrical repairs, roofing repairs, which again, depending on the season and depending on the weather, these sort of fluctuate. We've got $35,000 for ongoing HVAC servicing that is not inclusive of the project that we talked about before. That's just for general maintenance and the regular service contract that we have to make sure that the existing service works correctly. And this coming year, we've actually allocated a little bit more for winter snow plowing because it was very clear this year that it could add up. Particularly when we start talking about moving snow off premises, which is something that we did for the first time this year because we had so much. So we want to just make sure we're prepared to do that again if we need to. So we allocated $22,500 for that. And then just talking about energy, we projected $88,000, which should cover our gas and electric needs through PSE&G, which we're estimating at about $78,000, and NRG for $10,000. Which again is based on historical data, but then estimates with a little bit of an increase as we're seeing everywhere. Okay. Any questions on support? Perfect. All right. And then our last category that we have for expenses is capital outlay. This has anything to do with equipment purchases, things that are really related to improving the building, remodeling the building, or any other significant installations or servicing of equipment that we already have. All right. So this is broken down into three categories, which is instructional equipment, which often has to do with smart boards and other things that we see in the classroom. Non-instructional equipment, which is things that we use on a day-to-day basis, but it's not actually in the classroom, even if it's used by students. And it's not used for direct instruction. And then obviously improvements, which is, capital expenses that increase the value of the school building and are sort of physical improvements that we make to the building. All right. So for this year, we haven't really allocated any instructional equipment because, in doing an inventory of our equipment, there's no real need to add anything else to the classrooms. Through our discussions and whatnot, we did add $3,600 for non-instructional equipment, which we'll talk about on the next slide. And then improvements, we've allocated $162,000 for the HVAC project. All right. So the non-instructional equipment really has to do with lockers. So we're looking at $3,600 to buy and install additional lockers because we are still expanding and we need to make sure we've got enough lockers for the kids. So we're going to be filling out the rest of that bank that we've got in the corner by the 3rd and 4th grade and 7-8 wing near my office. So we're adding lockers there for upstairs students because we've got at least 9 more kids coming upstairs. And then for our capital improvements, this is all really related to the HVAC replacement plan, which again is really a long-term plan. So we can expect to spend a significant amount year over year. Because once one unit is finished, we do plan to obviously move on to the next ones to make sure that we're sort of rolling it out on a long-term basis. So that's where the other $162,000 is allocated for that we're looking to spend if necessary, obviously later on in the school year once this phase of the project is finished. All right, so that's the capital outlay, and even based on the inventory and whatnot that we're doing this year, which we spoke about, I think at the last meeting or before, it's going to show that we have a really good solid idea of what equipment we have, and it'll help us going forward with any other replacement needs that we might have. And that was the last category. So yeah, that covers all of our expenses. Obviously it's within budget, again, down to the dollar to make sure that everything is really planned in advance, to the best of our ability, based on historical data and really talking to our teachers and talking to our staff and talking to our vendors to make sure we know what things are going to cost. So is there any question about the budget, what we plan to spend and where we're at for the coming year? Okay. Well, thank you all for your time and attention. And thanks to Tom and Sonia, thanks to the business office and everybody for participating and really getting this data together, and to the finance committee for reviewing everything that we had sent over. It was a lengthy process, but definitely it's worthwhile to make sure that we know what we're dealing with, particularly in times where, like I said, a lot of districts are dealing with really difficult choices. So thank you again, and we can move on.
I just wanted to say to the board members that Tom does like a very diligent job on sending a spreadsheet with like every single area outlined. So if anyone wants access to that, just let me know. But we did review all of it. So thank you so much, Tom.
Yeah, and the budget narrative that everyone will have access to, that we upload with the 108 line budget that actually gets uploaded to the state, that has a lot of information too. So if you want any more specifics about how each of those lines is broken down, most of it's in there. Okay.
Committee updates. Do you want to do communication?
So we
Finally met.
So the staff appreciation luncheon will be on Friday, May 8th. We're asking for contributions from friends of TCCS. A sign of Venus will be set up for members to help serve staff. The board corner was discussed and approved. A date for the board retreat will possibly be in April to discuss ethics and guidelines and guidance for negotiations. The board book was discussed to see if we can put it together for newcomers, as there is new legislation for charter schools. Governance and communications will work together to help vet the new board members and set up some kind of pamphlet
Mhm.
for them. And a meeting will be set up for that between the two committees. And a goal will be set for June. We also discussed staff members being able to get first priority for the lottery placement for the children. So it would have to be changed in our bylaws, because it's different for all charter schools, as Mr. Gallo was telling us, and approved by different associations. And dates for the next two board meetings will be changed. It was changed today and for May 12th.
Thank you.
And sort of, relating to that too, I'd mentioned to Seymour, I'll send out like an informal sort of questionnaire, particularly for returning board members. Next meeting, we do want to approve next year's board meeting calendar. So I just want to get a feel for what people think of Tuesday meetings as opposed to Mondays. Mondays can be particularly long days for some people, So depending on that, we may look to mix it up a little bit for next year in advance, so we don't have to really change things up throughout the year. So just be on the lookout for that. It'll be sort of either an email or some sort of survey before next meeting, because that's typically when we would like to approve the following year's calendar. And I'll talk to you too about that, Mark, to see what works best. Okay.
Just for Joanna, as a new board member, we do a lunch for the staff. We have board members come and serve the staff. It's really, really fun. We get here early, and then sometimes we jump on TCSCO's like ice cream train, and so it's a lot of fun. So as board members, we contribute a little bit of money toward that, as well as the collaborative efforts. Last year was the first year we were able to, no, second year with Friends, and then BPA also helped. So just so you're aware that's being requested for. And then the onboarding, we have been talking amongst all of us, just a way to kind of prepare our new board members better. So it is a cross collaborative, because communications does our communication, and then governments does all of our bylaws and everything, and all the communication regarding our policies. So it's going to have to be a collaborative effort. So we'll see how that goes. I know you just said that, but I just wanted to tell her specifically. Yeah. Oh. Also, the financial disclosures have to go out. So if you didn't do it, just make sure you do it by April 30th. Governance.
We went over all of the surveys, just updating them, preparing them for distribution for this year. I still have to set up a meeting with the student council to go over their questions that they might want to put on their survey. We also discussed just doing a general review of the bylaws, and if there's anything else we need to update in the bylaws, and trying to get that done before the end of the year.
Okay. And then curriculum, does that before the last meeting? I can't even remember.
Yeah, it was after the last meeting.
After the last meeting. You were not there, and I don't have my notes. So we talked about, I can remember, we talked about our chairs are doing hard work with looking at the curricula that each grade level is utilizing, and trying to develop a little bit more of like a comprehensive stream, and also look at the feedback coming from the staff members and the data from the student progress to determine which curricula we want to go forward with. So they've been pulling maybe 3 to 4, and they're dwindling it down to 2, and then they're going to decide. But one of the missions as a committee is definitely to make sure that everything's comprehensive and everything makes sense, and the teachers feel well supported, and that it reflects across our data with progress. So that's definitely our focus. We also talked about curriculum nights. We've been talking about how parents don't have access or don't know how to access a lot of the curriculum. There was one this year, but it wasn't really well attended. So we were looking at pairing that to back to school nights or parent partnership nights when people are already in the building to be able to have access to those things. We talked a bit about the parent teacher conference scheduling and how it worked and how the staff members felt about it. And that was pretty positive across the board. Trying to think of what else. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that would be great.
I
Sorry.
think you did good. I think.
I'm trying to remember everything. Thank you.
It's
46-year-old eyes. So in the minutes, it does go through more specifically what curricula they're looking at. And Ms. Scalisi is excited about the STEM night that was presented earlier by Ms. Torres. They're currently looking at getting quotes for a TCI and some other STEM-based projects. We did receive a former parent provided us with a $10,000 donation to be applied to STEM projects, which is really exciting. And then some of the questions that were brought up, again, were the curriculum nights and when they're going to be attending, looking at the science online platform and getting it and rolling it out. Then that came from Ms. K's, I think through Ms. K to Ms. Scalisi. And then a question was asked by a board member, how, which was a great question, how do you choose curricula? Is it budget-based or is it learning-based or progress-based? So basically, it's mostly the student and staff feedback, but then if there are two that are comparable, then they would go with the cheaper curriculum. And that's it.
I just
Thank
want
you.
to clarify the science. It's not a donation. It's
Sorry.
basically it's letting us know that this money is available, and all we have to do is apply for it
grant,
and explain like a
Okay.
grant and explain what we want. But the curious parent wanted to reach out to us because they were pretty certain that we would benefit from it and that we would have programs that we're probably already doing that we could put in to request this money. So
Thank you for clarifying. And then just finance. Finance, we didn't formally meet right before this meeting, but again, we were able to review all the information that Tom, line by line budget, and ask any questions that we needed at the time. So we did a good job this month with all of our committees. And then the resolutions.
Great.
Does anyone have any questions?
Okay. So we have 8 resolutions for tonight. The first is the budget summary, which is all the bills that we've paid since the last meeting. We've got our SBA financials for the month of February that was shared with everybody. We've got the official 26-27 budget, which I presented this evening. We've got a personnel appointment for 2 new substitutes. And then we've got 3 different service agreements pertaining to the facility things that we talked about already. There's an HVAC agreement for the current project. The gym floor repair and the gym wall repair, which again, the majority is being paid for by insurance, but we still need to approve them as the vendors who did the work. And then finally, we do have a closed session to just discuss harassment, intimidation, and bullying. And those are the resolutions.
Okay. Any public comment regarding resolutions? Any public comment in general? Yes. Hi, Ms. Kay.
But I just wanted to tag on to Sonia's event for the April 23rd STEM night that the TCCEA, the Teaneck Community Charter Education Association, the union here at the school, is sponsoring I think it's the first prize.
Oh, awesome. Oh, great. Can we know what the prize is? It's a
I
secret.
don't know. if
Is it a secret? Maybe we'll.
No. So I don't want to.
It is
Okay.
a surprise.
All right.
Yeah.
Isn't that bring your kids to work day?
It is bring your
20,
kids to work
yeah.
at the same. But see, that you can bring your child to work and then bring them to STEM event.
Okay. Sounds like
It's
a
an
plan.
excused absence. Bring your child to work day so that they can come to the event.
Okay.
And participate in the event. I just had quick also comment. was that all, Ms. Cupburn?
Yeah.
Just 2 things. I sent an email today, reminder to all of the parents. I know the weather is now hopefully finally staying warm, and so I just reminded everyone about the dress code. So if you didn't see the email, please check, because we already had to speak to some students on the unsafeness with the open-toed shoes and Crocs and attire that students are wearing. We just want to make sure that they're school appropriate. And then the second thing is that we're seeing a bunch of toys, and when I mean toys, I mean some fidgets a lot around the school, and so teachers are asking me if we should ban them, but we're telling the students that it's considered a toy unless you have it as a tool and it's a fidget that you need, and if you use it as a fidget, then yes, absolutely. But really, it's if you're just playing with it and have these things, they're toys, so they're not allowed in school. So I don't think it's necessarily we have to ban it. They're not supposed to have these things. If teachers see them playing around with things and not using them for the reason that the reason we have fidgets is to help you focus, then they will be asking them to put them away. So please, if your child is telling you to buy them, just please let them keep them home unless that they need them to focus, and then we would need to make sure the teacher's aware that they need these items, these tools to help them focus. Thank you.
Sorry, can I piggyback on something?
Yeah.
We are very blessed here to have such awesome HVAC and air conditioning here, which is fabulous. That being said, when it's 80 degrees outside, it is not 80 degrees inside. And so these little children who dress for the 80-degree outside weather are freezing in classes. So we kindly try and remind parents that you should have a sweatshirt or something else in the classroom or in their locker so that they could go out and get it. I know it kind of seems bizarre, like when it's 90 degrees out that your kid's got a sweatshirt, but
Yes.
they probably need one.
Piggyback on that, opposite, when they're wearing a hoodie and shorts, body odor matters. Just saying, because you sweat outside, we darn taking care of ourselves. Everybody else, you come back in.
See, I've got younger kids, like younger classes.
She did it for the community. She did it for the community. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Evan.
Yeah, so Mr. Kyle just wanted me to talk about the show.
Oh my gosh, we didn't talk
Since the
about
last
the
meeting?
show.
Oh, wait, thank you.
So,
Wait, can I say something before you start?
of course.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that. So we did every year they do a breakdown show, a breakdown party, and at this breakdown party, Mr. Goodrich, who you were about to hear speak, stood up and presented this beautiful speech and thanked so many people. And it was really amazing, and it speaks to the department, and it speaks to how invested these kids are, but not only the kids, but the staff and what they teach them and how they make them so articulate and amazing. So I just wanted to say that openly, that Evan did an awesome job. And that event was incredible. The community definitely comes out around the theater program, and it's an awesome thing to see.
Yes.
And a lot of the stuff that they used, they were able to take. Were you going to say this already? Oh, okay, forget it. I won't take your thunder.
Don't steal his thunder.
So now Evan Goodrich.
Don't worry, guys, I'm not giving a whole 10-minute speech. This year's show was nothing like we've ever done before. There were almost 80 students working on this. We got new lights. A Broadway actor came to see the show, and he actually gave us like the highest praises. And though the upper school played a big role in putting the show together, unintended, it was amazing seeing the younger kids interested in acting in the show. Like half of the show was like our younger grades. This show was so successful with connecting the community as well, especially because of how many people joined to watch us each night. Like we were sold out. We even had alumni come back both to watch and do makeup for the show and help out. So that was very helpful. And the VBA program has come so far since its founding. And with the money we made from this show and that we will make from theater camp, it will just keep on building and supporting our students. Something very special about this year was our stage manager, Mr. CJ, started working for a local theater company called Vanguard. So we started to build like a relationship with them. And they offered to give us spotlights for our entire set. They're doing SpongeBob in the summer, and they're literally going to be using like our set in post, which is very cool. Because like now we've established a connection with more professionals. And And besides all that, the most important thing I think about this year's show was the chance to spread a powerful message. The show's theme is an important one because it inspires our students to be kind to one another and use positivity to overcome adversity, even when it feels like the end of the world. If you haven't already, I think you should read Mr. Coelho's director's note in the playbill, because it's very well worded and like reinforces what we were trying to show our audience. And I also got to see this message occur in real time because the production process had, let's just say, an interesting start. But we moved past it and we put on a great show. And last but not least, like half of our 8th grade class worked on this. And it was a really good show for them to leave a legacy.
Aww.
That's great.
You did that so much better than I would have. Yeah, a lot of tears, but it was a good year. So thanks, Ev.
Excellent job, Evan. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? No? All right, so we're ready for the resolutions. Resolution 2604-01, budget summary. Be it resolved that the budget summary for March 10th, 2026 to April 14th, 2026, total amount $441,295.88 be approved. Moved by? Avino moves. Second? Beck seconds.
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Mizzou?
Yes.
Had not, yes. Resolution carries. This is hard when you remember who's here. Resolution 2604-02, SBA financial reports, February 2026. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve SBA financial reports for February 2026. Moved by? Mizzou moves. Second? Beck seconds. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Beck?
Yes.
Bahari?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Lazu?
Yes.
Had not, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2604-03, the 2026-2027 budget. Whereas TCCS is required to submit to the Commissioner of Education a budget each year ends, whereas it is required that this budget be approved by resolution, and whereas DOE has disseminated the budget figures as the budget figures as general fund $8,521,000 and $8,521,182, special revenue fund $135,000, total budget $8,656,182. Now therefore be it resolved that the attached submission of the budget for the school year 2026-2027 be accepted and approved. Moved by?
Carter.
Carter moves. Second? Avino seconds. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Beck?
Yes.
Bahari?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Lazu?
Yes.
Had not, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2604-04, personnel appointments, substitutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the following substitutes for the 2025-26?
Current, yeah.
Current,
It's
okay.
still current.
Just making sure. Sub teachers, $150 a day. Catherine Donahue and Nolan Hill. Moved by? Beck moves. Second? Lazu seconds. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Beck?
Yes.
Bahari?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Lazu?
Yes.
Had not, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2604-05, HVAC agreement. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the attached agreement with McCluskey Mechanical Contractors to complete HVAC upgrade services. Moved by?
Carter.
Carter moves. Second? Avino seconds. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Beck?
Yes.
Bahari?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Lazu?
Yes.
Had not, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2604-06, gym floor repair agreement. Be it resolved that the TCCS board approve the attached agreement with Classic Sports Floors to complete gymnasium floor repair and refinishing services. Moved by?
Carter.
Carter moves. Second?
Beck.
Beck seconds. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino?
Yes.
Beck?
Yes.
Bahari?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Lazu?
Yes.
Had not, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2604-07, gym wall repair agreement. Be it resolved that the TCCS board approve the attached agreement with All Risk Inc. to complete gymnasium wall repair services. Moved by?
Carter.
Carter moves. Second?
Avino.
Avino seconds. Any questions or comments from the board? Avino,
Yes.
Beck,
Yes.
Bahari,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Lazu.
Yes.
Hadnot, yes. Resolution carries. Resolution 2604-08, closed session. Be resolved that the TCCS board go into closed session on April 14th, 2026 to discuss HIB matters. Moved by
Avino.
Avino moves, second.
President?
Lazu seconds. Avino? Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Any questions or comments? Avino, yes.
Yes.
Beck,
Yes.
Bahari,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Lazu. Hadnot, yes. We're going into closed session at
7:59.
7:59. No decisions will be made when we come back into open session. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Good job, Ed. Okay, I have questions.
Tomorrow, thank you.
Thank you, Juliana.